Hi everyone! My name is Avery. I'm a radio DJ on 987 and I constantly work with whyyy to interview people on the street and annoy them.
I'm Shivani. I work at whyyy.
I'm Celine. I work at whyyy. Okay, so today we are here to talk about relationships and why people in Singapore seem to be so single. Okay, so today we're here to talk about relationships and this recent IPS survey that was done that said that 2 in 5 Singaporeans have never been in relationships before. Okay, so this survey was released last month, but then they conducted it over like 2017 to 2022. So in order to make sure that it's updated, we did our own survey and the stats are actually quite close. So the Singapore one that they did is 40% of them have never been in relationships. Ours was around like 35%, so it's quite close. So I don't know, like for you guys, is it shocking? Like have friends around you been in relationships?
The people around me have been in relationships for quite some time. I mean, my first relationship when I was like 19, 18. Yeah, so that was, I was in like long-term relationships for a while. So I think, honestly, I would say it is kind of shocking to me. But I guess I also kind of understand why people wouldn't want to be in relationships either. I mean, expensive.
Okay. Not what I expected, but okay. How about you?
I'd say I'm not surprised. I'd say of my friends 50-50, you have the chronic daters and the chronic single people. I couldn't list a specific reason if I tried, but I'm not super surprised by the stat. Yeah.
Okay, so for me also, I think 50-50. The people that are single are really, really very single. And mainly the reason why is they haven't really found the right person or like they're prioritizing like other things like in life. Okay, so let's talk about the people who have never been in a relationship first. Okay, so for those that we surveyed, 70% of them say that it's because they're prioritizing other things. So like school, career, stuff like that. And then someone said, girl, I'm lost in life. I don't know what to do with my career. I don't even know what I want for dinner. How would I want to know what I want in a partner? So I guess for this person, they're focusing on their career. But then my question is also like, wouldn't you feel like lonely at some point? Like, do you think that platonic friendships can substitute romantic relationships?
I will say that I completely understand with this girl. I'm very focused on my job and I'm very focused on my career. And I think there's a very big difference. Like Shivani actually said, you have chronic daters, right? And then you have the people who are perpetually single, the chronic single people. But what is the difference? Like, where do you draw the line between being in a relationship, dating, and considering yourself single, right? I can say for a fact that I am not ready to be in a relationship because I know for a fact that I want to focus on my work. And I think a lot of people in this day and age resonate as well because you've got a lot of things that you got to focus on when it comes to work, and then it becomes a problem of if I don't prioritize my partner, it adds on to the stress because then we fight, right? Especially as a guy, because sometimes the girls are like, why do you not care? I'm like, it's not that I don't, it's just that I don't have time. And I know for a fact that I always say this, making time is very, very possible. But then when I make the time, I'm like, you know what I mean? And I want to be somebody where if I have a relationship,
You're
you
very
are
present.
my, correct, you're my 100%. And right now I know for a fact that I can't do that. And so I don't want to subject anybody to my half-assed relationship. Because right now I'm just focused on work. So yeah.
Okay, so I'll follow up on this one later. But so for now, career and like friendships are okay substitutes to you for relationships?
I wouldn't call it a substitute. I think it just doesn't, it doesn't cross my mind so hard that I'm like, I need a girlfriend. Like sometimes I'm alone in bed and I'm like, it would be nice to hug someone. But then I remember that, I need to sleep and I need to wake up tomorrow to go to work, right? So it's like a fleeting moment of like, okay, yeah, maybe I am a little bit lonely. But then I realized that I have to work.
Okay, what about you? Can friendships substitute relationships?
I agree with it. I'm so sorry.
Go ahead.
There's no counter. I also wouldn't really consider it substitution because I feel like that devalues like the friendships and the relationships that I already have. I would prefer to be fully in a relationship that I want to be committed to versus like a half-hearted like, this can lah. Because I've had friends who, I guess in the stages where we're like figuring ourselves out, where they would be chronic daters and like in my adulthood I'd be like, do you know who you are outside of a relationship for a bit? Because it'd be like they would break up and then immediately get into a relationship with someone else, and I was like, I think I'm much more content being comfortable with like myself as a person versus needing to feel like tethered to someone else for my identity.
Okay. I'm not countering the point also, but I did come across this like TikTok creator recently. So okay, I think quite wholesome lah. She was saying that like her friends, she will be fine if she never finds a romantic partner because her friends say like the sweetest things to her. So in her video, she was saying like, oh, her friends will say things to her like, I can't wait to see you like win in life. Like when you win in life, like I want to be there like witnessing it like with you, and like say things like that. So to her, she was like, it's fine. Like if I don't get a partner, friendships like can substitute it. Yeah. For me, I don't agree because I think I would expect very different things from a romantic partner compared to a friend. Like if I'm sick, I wouldn't call up my friend and be like, can you come over? But like I would probably ask that of my partner lah. Yeah, so in that sense, I don't really think so.
You will ask your boyfriend to come and take care
If
of you.
I'm dying, like if I'm bedridden and like I'm like throwing up, like oh my god, I really cannot anymore.
You won't ask your family? You call
My
your boyfriend
family
first?
not in Singapore. So
It's religious.
yeah, it's not my family.
Okay, actually that's a fair point. I mean, okay, but I also feel that as a guy, you see, this is what I mean, right? If you're not feeling well, you would expect things like this of your partner, not your friends. So you can't have that substitute. Whereas there are friends, I have friends that when I fall sick, they will text me and they'll send me like medication, they'll send me food.
Aww.
It's very, very sweet, but like you said, it's not a substitute,
Yeah.
right? And I guess that's where the line is drawn, right? And that's why you can't have a substitute. So are you okay with if you're sick, you have to take care of yourself? Are you okay with that?
I mean, I've been doing that lah, so it's also not a need in my life.
Exactly.
Would be nice, but not a need.
I do relate to that TikTok because my friends and I often talk about how, because my friend for a bit would go on like dates and stuff and then tell us about how boring people she dated were, and we'd always like come to the same conclusion of like, my friends and I are also interesting, and then I go on a date with like this boring ass person and I'm like, what's the point?
I disagree with that.
Oh, okay.
Because I feel that you find your friends interesting because you resonate with that group of friends, right? And that's why you guys are friends, because you're all on the same wavelength. I feel that when you're dating, it's not so much about finding a person boring, right? Because when you go on a first date, it's very rare that you immediately you click. Because first dates are nervous, right? People are nervous, people are uncomfortable. There are spaces where people don't know what to do on a first date. And sometimes guys are shy, right? And I think a lot of times it takes a bit more before you start learning about a person. I mean, when you met your friends who are super interesting, it's not like the first time you were like, oh my god, you're so interesting. No, right? It took time to build.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think it's the same thing with relationships. And it becomes a problem because people always think that there is this like Hollywood romantic love that, love at first sight, you fall in love immediately. But people forget that the dating process is not an easy one, right? And that also brings it back to why people are single, because they don't want to go through this dating process. They don't want to go through the fact that, oh shit, this person is boring, or oh shit, I'm too lazy to
The
figure
whole
it
like
out.
shopping,
Exactly.
shortlisting process.
This whole idea of like, talking and this and that and this and that. Why do this when I have my amazing friends who know exactly who I am as a person? Right? And that becomes a situation.
Not wrong. So that they're too comfortable already in their own circle. From a girl's perspective, do you think that, okay, and then I'll ask you later also, like, do you think that girls are a lot more specific / detailed / like nitpicky, not nitpicky lah, but they're very sure about what they're looking for in a guy as compared to guys who might be a lot more open in like their criteria per se. So okay, a context, like I think a lot of the guy friends that I've spoken to, like what they look for in a girl is mostly, oh, if I can vibe with her, if you can communicate, if she's a decent human being, things like that. Compared to girls, I mean, like what they wrote, and then like a lot of the things that we look for are also derived from our personal experiences.
From my experience, I feel like the expectations kind of match. Maybe I had a classmate in school who broke up with his girlfriend because she was bad at roller skating.
Okay.
And so like, because he wants someone athletic, but they went out on a date to roller skate and she fell down.
And then he broke up with her.
Broke up with her. And that's the funniest thing, because I'm like, brother, what? Pick a different spot. Yeah, no, I think for the point of girls, I feel like a lot of it is, and I think with a lot of like heteronormative relationships where like you have so much media around you that you can kind of piece together from different like fictional characters and like and like these portrayals of celebrities who your ideal man would be, even if you've never like really come up against who your ideal, because what is an ideal partner in the first place. So there's like a famous clip from that Aishwarya Rai, like the Bollywood actress, did, where she said when she was younger, when girls are younger, the list is always like, I want him to be tall and handsome and ripped and cute and smart, and then you get older and it's like, I want him to be a decent person who's alive. I don't know if it's the younger you are, the more expectations you have, because you're like newer in the scene and you have like certain standards of maybe what you want your life to be like, and so what you want your partner to be like.
Do you think that guys are more open in like what you look for compared to girls?
I think it changes as you grow up. When I was younger, everybody, like you said, right, expectations where people have, because when you're younger, everything is a bit more superficial.
Yeah.
Right? Puppy love is like so superficial. In this day and age, I literally just had a conversation with somebody and they were like, when you are of a certain age and you get married, when you start young, you build your life together. When you're of a certain age, you've already accumulated a bunch of assets in your life, right? And then you're like, okay, what's next for us, right? It can't just be so superficial anymore. You start to think of who's gonna pay for the house, how much money is gonna go into the house, how much do I make, how much do you make, how does that kind of match? I mean, to me, it's not a big deal. Because I don't make any money, but to me, it's that it's more of like kind of understanding a person first. All this is secondary, right? So I think expectations-wise, for me, it's just, oh shit, maybe I really am just a guy. If we vibe, and then we'll figure it out after that. I mean, I don't know. I don't think there's many expectations when it comes to guys, but also because I feel like majority of the time, it's just we want to find somebody who can also understand us. And I think that's very overlooked in a lot of guys because, it's always like, oh yeah, guys just whatever. But we're sensitive beings too, yeah?
Aww.
Okay, come around, relax, stop.
You want to talk about the economic and social events in the world?
No, but I genuinely think so. Like, I think a lot of people don't realize that, like, in this day and age especially, many guys are very in tune with their feelings and, it's whether or not just whether we vibe, but whether women can understand us as well.
Why you look at me like that?
You don't think so?
A lot of guys that are very in tune with their feelings, ... question mark.
Why not?
As in, you feel that you are someone who's very in tune with your feelings as a guy.
I wouldn't say very lah. I mean, I'm a bit of a stupid fool lah. But no, I do feel like I know.
You have insights.
Yeah, right. And I kind of understand. I mean, when you've dated and when you've been in relationships and when you've, gone through these processes over and over again, multiple times ending in failures, right? You're like, things about yourself. You know how people behave. Like very recently, I would say like I went on a date, and I've got a little like checklist in my head, right? When I go on a date with somebody, whether they are red flags and whether or not these things that they do, are like they are like, okay, that's not a thing that I like, right? And when they check things off their list, I'm like, like, is it gonna go any further, kind of thing. So I'm very in tune with all that.
Okay.
I feel like that's rare.
Yeah, correct. So this is what I mean when I say that like a lot of girls, or actually a lot of my friends also, like they have this kind of checklist and like they're very specific about what they want. So you're actually one of the guys that are like that.
Correct, but the thing is that you need to pass the initial stage of picking a partner, right? Like life is like Tinder, right? In a sense of this way, right? That you only get to know the person after you look at them, right? You're not gonna, like, unless it's a blind date, right? You're always gonna be physically attracted to a person first before you even go on a first date, right? And then this checklist comes into play. So is your question to me, are guys physically more open? Like, are they just like, okay, girl, I'll go out and then figure them out? Or is it the second half of it?
I think the second half of it, right?
Because to me, I think you're asking about the second half.
Yeah, second
right?
half.
So if the second half, then yes, a lot of guys are more in tune with their feelings nowadays, where they know exactly what they're looking for in a woman, especially at my age. They're like, I know what I want. And when they go out on these dates, right, I can assure you, when the girl is ticking that checklist, he is doing the same.
Okay, how old are you again?
29.
Oh, okay.
Do you just go, huh?
Second opinion, do you agree that a lot of guys are like that?
From my experience,
No.
not so much.
How old are y'all?
25.
26.
Okay, maybe
Not
then.
that far.
It's not that far off, actually.
Yeah.
No, okay, but let me say this though. I do believe firmly, and this may be a bit stupid to say lah, but I think right, COVID kind of like fucked every.
Oh, 100%.
COVID kind of like messed up everybody's
Yeah.
like time frame a little bit, right? We're all like lost in 2 years. I keep thinking I'm 25.
I keep thinking I'm
Oh.
23, yeah.
Yeah, right. But 25 is 4 years. Like, I just want to put it out there. But I'm like, in my head, I'm like, oh man, I'm still young, you know. But I think COVID has made this problem where people forget how to do things, right? So it's either you learnt things during COVID or you just stagnated for a little bit.
Okay, maybe the people that we met were the
Stagnated.
stagnated ones.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, it's interesting to say that you guys have gone out with people that don't do this checklist. But
Yeah.
no, but have you all asked?
About
Do you
the
all ask your
checklist?
friends?
Like, hey, you got checklist or not? As in, the friends around me that I don't date, they do have that checklist.
Right. So how do you know that the guys that you date don't?
I think it's not so much of they don't, but like their checklists are very simple, which is what I said, can die, decent human being, that's all.
But you see, that's surface.
Surface level.
Superficial.
Superficial?
No, that's very surface level. That again is your first entry point, right? Is she cute? Yes. Right? Can we vibe through text? Can we vibe in person? Sure. But then when you start going on the dates, right, the little checklist starts to happen.
I think the people that I know, like the checklist ends there. Like
Really?
the people that I'm thinking of. Yeah. You also don't know.
How will you know her friends?
Yeah. Yeah, wait, I'm not dissing y'all. Oh my god, so sorry. Who are you talking to? In case they watch.
Oh.
Okay. Do you agree that like he's rare, like that awareness and like the checklist thing?
My Pokemon, yeah.
I think so. I think it's I don't know how to say this because it's not saying that the girls I know have a very specific checklist of like, oh, this is who I'm gonna marry and this is my like specific itinerary. But it just kind of feels like, to steal the intellectually curious word, like they are. It feels like on dates the girls tend to be more curious to like figure out like who the guy is as a
Right.
person.
I've got a question
Cha.
for the both of y'all, right? That's no, I mean it will help all the guys out there that are trying to date Celine and Shivani. The question is this, right? If a guy tells you that he's got a checklist, right? Let's say he's your friend, and he says that he has this checklist. Do you think it makes him look like a bad person?
No.
I think it depends on what the checklist is. Because like we've gone through like different things of like, oh, that's a reasonable thing to expect in a partner. But
Right.
I feel, I don't know, I can't think of a bad checklist point.
So let's say your friend says, "Oh, I went out with a girl, and she didn't fit my checklist of things that I liked about her." And you ask, "What are some of those checklists?" And he says like, "Oh, when we were talking, she only like talked about herself. When the bill came, she expected me to pay, and all these kind of things." Do y'all think it's a bad checklist?
I think if that specific checklist,
Yeah.
if there is a deeper reason to like each thing, why like the paying the bill thing, if it's not purely a ego thing like, oh, why must I pay, but like he has a justifiable reason for it, then I feel like it's fine. Generally, I feel like guys having a checklist is more of green flag to me, because then I
It
feel
just
like
feels like intention.
kind of like you know specifically what you're looking for, and you're not like, if like another girl comes by and then you're like, oh my god, I can vibe with her better, or like she's prettier, then like, okay, bye, I'm going for her. Like, like if you know specifically what you're looking for, it makes me more certain that you've thought things through also.
So then, would you rather know what his checklist is?
Okay, so I feel like it's two-sided, because some people, when they know your checklist, they subconsciously try to like fit into
Oh,
that.
yeah.
So I don't know if I want to know.
What if you go for the first date, you don't meet the expectations or his checklist, and then the guy tells you this? He says, "Hey man," if any guy calls you man like
Hey,
that,
man.
don't go on a second
Hey,
date. Yeah,
bro.
he's like, "Hey name, I had a great time with you going out,
But I had these concerns.
but some things that you did, kind of, made me feel a little bit uncomfortable, or some things that you did, I wish you would do them a little bit differently."
Depending on how the conversation is like broached, if it was phrased like that, I'd be like, oh, that's quite a green flag.
Really?
Yeah. Then I want to talk to you like exactly
Yeah.
what other things.
You want? Wow. Let me tell you why I'm reacting this way,
Okay,
right?
okay, okay.
Because I've never done it before. Because I personally,
I think it depends on the girl.
no, I
No?
think as a guy, it's like, who are you to say these things to somebody? Like, in a sense that if this is my list, right, and I don't, just on a second date, I'm like, hey, I like you, we vibe, but these are things that you did that I'm like, about. If like, wow. What?
Give example. Like,
Give
what's
example,
one
yeah.
thing? Yeah.
I always say that I will pay for a first date. I love paying for first dates. But this whole idea of a girl offering to pay, right? The reason you said, oh, it's a why, right? It's because it shows that a girl doesn't expect something, right? But I will always pay on the first date. Right? It's just the way that I am. No matter what, I will always pay on the first date. But this whole idea of somebody going, no, let's split the bill, or no, let me get drinks after this, right? To me, it's a very big indication of somebody because it shows appreciation, right? It's that simple. So if a girl doesn't pay for the first date, or not doesn't offer to pay, or doesn't say, hey, let me get drinks after this, right? In my head, I'm like, oh, okay, so that's an expectation that you want, right? Is this what's going to be expected
Every time.
throughout the times that we go out, right? Is this the expectation? And can you imagine if, let's say, Celine and I go out on the first date, and this all happens, and then after the first date, you're like, oh my god, it was a great first date, and I go, hey, I really had a great time, but why didn't you offer to pay for the bill, by the way?
I think, okay, I feel like if you worded it the way that you did
Just now.
Okay, fine. So I said, hey, we had a great time going out, but I just wanted to ask, why is it that you didn't offer to pay during the meal?
Okay, I cannot defend this girl because I will also offer to pay, but then I feel like when you bring it up, like it gives them a chance to like kind of clarify or like share, I don't know what kind of thoughts they might have about not offering to pay lah. So I feel like it's a worthy conversation to have.
But don't you think it's a little bit too soon to have that conversation
I'll change
after
my
a first
answer.
date?
Maybe not immediately after the first date, maybe not on the second date, but maybe if you're very early on in dating and then you're like, oh my god, I really like this person. However, these are certain things that like have bothered me.
Right.
And so like, I think if you want to have that conversation early on, then I would appreciate that because then it shows like a sign of maturity.
So do you think first date is too soon? After the first
Maybe.
date is too soon?
I think it depends on how long the first date is.
What do you mean? One night lah.
No, but it also depends on how much you like the guy. Because if I like you so much and you bring it up to me and it gives me a chance to clarify, then
Yeah.
I'm good with it.
You see, this is a landmine, right? Because it really is a landmine. Because as a guy, then do you just suck it up and you're like, let me wait a while and see whether or not it continues?
But if you really, really like the girl, but this part cannot, then
Yeah.
will you bring it up to her?
Of course.
Then yeah.
But the thing is, when?
Um,
Right? As women, when do you think it's okay for me to bring up something that I feel uncomfortable about if we're only dating?
I can't think of a timeline.
And when is it ever going to be okay? Like when we're having food and I'm like, hey, by the way, or like through text, like, hey, by the way, or like on a call one night, hey, by the way. Like when is it a good time? This is like a big thing that I feel that guys kind of, girls as well, right? That people in this dating phase, it's so complex, right? That if you don't fit this arbitrary checklist that we're talking about, do you bring it up? Or do you find ways to navigate yourself around it? And if you do bring it up, when do you bring it up?
Okay, somebody answer Avery's question in the comments. I was laughing because she was mimicking your hand actions. But okay.